Hey guys, how's it going? I wanted to talk to you for a little bit, and I wanted to let you know that I really appreciate all of you who support me and who understand what I'm going through in my life, because I share a lot of negative stuff on this channel of me just talking about how I'm depressed and insecure, and I've cried a lot. And I just want to say that, what this channel is about is me expressing myself and sharing what I feel and what I think and so forth. So, you're going to get a lot of stuff like what you've seen so far. Although, I'm getting a little bit cautious of sharing that sort of stuff anymore. I've gotten a lot of feedback recently of people saying that I'm too emotional, that I cry too much. It's starting to worry people. People have called me names, as I've mentioned in my last video. So I've gotten a lot of negative feedback. And some people just say I need to man up, not be so weak. I need to toughen up. I need to, just deal with it, whatever. But I struggle with this because it is just who I am, that I am so emotional, and I almost can't help it. I want to figure out how I can help it, because, I don't want to feel this way, and I do know that a lot of people experience this sort of stuff, which is why I think it's important for me to highlight this aspect of myself, to highlight all the negative emotions I have, to highlight the fact that I cry a lot, to highlight the fact that, I have depressed feelings. I think it's important to talk about this stuff, and I'm going to continue expressing myself this way because I think it's important to try to figure out what's going on. I want to understand what is making me feel this way. How can I move forward? I think one aspect of this is that I'm in my head too much. I'm just thinking too much about everything, and because of that, I'm sort of self-obsessed, always thinking about how everything applies to me. I'm comparing myself to other people. I'm always wishing that my life was different. I'm never happy with what I have. There's all sorts of things that are going on that make me the way I am. And I think that if you're interested in this sort of thing, you don't have to watch all my videos, but I think that the long-term journey for me is to understand what's going on and to come up with answers. Like, I want solutions to the problems I'm having. And I think one thing that's a mystery to me so far is, why do these feelings occur in the first place? And maybe that's something I can explore in the future. Is, how do these negative emotions come into being for myself? How do they start existing? Like, why? How? Like, what is the cause of these negative emotions to rush into me? Because for me, I would be fine. I'd be perfectly okay. But then all of a sudden, something triggers. I know that's a word that has been used for different purposes. Something psychologically triggers something in me that makes me start being emotional, that makes me start crying, that makes me start feeling like all these negative emotions, like maybe it's depression, I don't know. I'm really sensitive. I'm emotionally fragile. And I keep finding myself coming back to that. I don't know if this is a good comparison, but I almost feel like me being emotional and how much I cry and everything is kind of similar to someone who's addicted to something. And I know this is kind of comparing apples to oranges, but the idea is that I feel like I have a choice. I can start feeling these negative emotions, and I have a choice to, do I express my emotions, by feeling negatively, do I just break down? Do I let myself have an emotional breakdown? Or do I toughen up, man up, not show emotion, pretend like it's not happening, and just continue moving on with my life as if I never felt that stuff? The same way that a person who's addicted to something has a choice to follow through with that addiction or try to avoid it. And it's one of these things where I wonder, if I avoid all of this emotional, sensitive stuff over a long period of time, will that be a good thing for me? Will it make me less likely to be emotional the next time? Or will being emotional giving in to the negative emotions? Is it going to make it more likely for the next time that it's going to happen that I also follow suit and give into the same emotional negative emotions as I did before? So am I just reinforcing a pattern by allowing myself to be sensitive, crying, emotional? Should I start a new pattern of being tough and manly and so forth? Obviously, I don't want to bring the whole man issue into this, what it means to be a man, so I'll just forget about that. But, I think one thing that I do believe is that it's okay to feel these things, but I do think that there is a point where it's not good for you. It's not healthy. It's not good mentally. It's not a good mental health case for you to always be crying and always be insecure and sensitive. And you have to at some point face what's going on and get over it. And that's what you guys have basically been telling me. All these people out there who've been telling me that I'm weak or that I need to man up. It's not, obviously they're not being supportive or helpful, but the idea is that I need to somehow get over this. I can't help but feel like they're right in some way. You're right by saying that. And it's just, the one thing I want to say about that is I wish it was that easy. I wish that I could just get over it. But this is not something you can just snap your fingers and it's going to happen immediately. This is something that you have to work over time to build yourself. You have to change your behavior over time. You have to create who you want to be. It's a process. The problem with this is that I've always been this way. I've always been emotionally fragile. I've always been insecure. I've always been an emotional mess. I've always had struggled mentally through my whole life, going back all the way since I was a little kid. So it's one of these things where it's is this just how I am? And then how do I make a life how do I live my life knowing that that's how I am? So, the other thing about being in my head too much is, is it something where I need to stop being in my head? Do I need to stop thinking so much? Do I need to take more action in life? Just do stuff without thinking about it? Because, I don't know. I've always just been a person who I think a lot about everything. I'm always in my head because I love abstract ideas. I'm curious about things. I think about all the what ifs about life. I try to understand stuff. And I think that what I'm trying to do in my life is I'm trying to understand myself. I'm trying to think about myself a lot. And, because here's the thing, I think that individuals have the ability to create the life that they want to have. I feel like we have power over the circumstances of our life. We can change, what we have in our life and who we are and everything. And so I always feel like there's something that I can do to make everything better, but at the same time, I just don't always do anything in my life, so I'm just kind of sitting here feeling bad about the fact that I'm not doing anything. And I'm sure there's a lot going on with me. There's a lot that I can try to understand, but, I don't know. If I'm in my head too much, I don't know if I can change that. This whole... The thing that really bothers me about everything here is that I just don't know if I can change how I am. I want to try to figure it out, and if it's possible, I want to try to. But I will say this. I think that I've been showing you a lot on this channel. I've been sharing a lot about me crying and being an emotional mess. And I don't want you to take away from this channel that's all that I'm about. That's all that I am. I want you to know that there's more to me as a person other than being an emotional mess and being depressed and insecure and all that stuff and in my head. That's true. That is what makes up most of my life. That's probably the most interesting thing about me. But if there's any way on this channel moving forward I can make less videos of me crying and less videos of me being emotional so much and more videos just random stuff, maybe I should try to do that, although it's very hard for me to come up with any other thing to talk about and do in these videos because I've built this whole channel to be about me being emotional. This whole channel is about all the negative emotions that I feel. Depression, loneliness, being insecure, hating myself, and all that sort of stuff. And I will continue to talk about that because I feel like that's important to talk about. We need to raise more awareness that, people are like this and that we need to work on this together and grow and